We've always done it that way. I had a job. It was coding medical records, and I went to school for it for 2 years to learn how to do all this stuff. And then when it came to getting a job, because they were hiring, I said, which part of medical records pays the best? Because I had 2 kids to support. And at the time, I had a husband as well. So I was supporting a family of 4. They said, transcription and coding. Well, transcription was difficult for me because you have to hear what. This is when doctors dictated into a tape recorder device. You had to listen to the doctor, and if he had an accent or something, it was really difficult. And then you had to figure out what they were saying and what disease or what symptoms or whatever, and then you have to type it down. Well, that was just a little too much for my brain. So I took coding. Coding is putting numbers and letters to symptoms and diseases because computers understand numbers and letters because they're basically a typed in system. Now it might have changed in 20 years. I know it's changed. But when I worked there, we'd get scribbled stuff from the doctor, or we'd read the chart. Person came in with the pain in the knee, which is 719.46. That's the old system. That's ICD 9. They use ICD 10 now, which has numbers and letters, and I don't know that system at all. But I knew all the old system, and people told me I have this or I have that. I knew the number for it, so I could type it in right away. A lot of people would do it a certain way, but if I knew what was going on, and I read the lab report, or I read the x-ray and it said torn ligament, you're supposed to go with what's more specific because it could pay better for the insurance company or whatever. It's all a big business in this country especially. But I became more efficient and proficient. People say, well, why are you doing it that way? We've always done it this way. But I was a fresh new person. I was a fresh mind. And I, because of my German heritage, probably try to be as efficient as possible. Streamline things in my mind. Categorize, put it on the shelf in my mind. So I could just pluck it right out, put it right down. Maybe it's because I'm wired differently. I don't know. But it was a good job. It paid okay. I was supporting 4 people on $16 an hour. And some people out there go, that, what? Yeah. We're talking 1998, 99, something like that. 1990, no, wait a minute, when did I go to school? Well, late 90s, okay. Anyway, little kids out there, and I love watching my grandkids. They tire me out a lot. But I love watching them because they see the world as it is. They haven't been poisoned as much as the older people by society's mess-ups. Society tells you to do this, that, and the other thing, yet the people don't do it. Especially our government right now. In the last 9 months, our government says, do this, do that, but then they do whatever they want. That's not cool. And look what you're showing the little kids. You're going to mess up the future big time just by, do as I say, not as I do. I used to hear that all the time from my mother, who was narcissistic. And she pretty much neglected me. But she'd tell me all these things. And then she'd also tell me I was bad and I was, she didn't go as far as to say you're going to hell for this, but you had that feeling of dread if you didn't stay in line. And also, we were a religious family. We went to church on Sundays. I was brought up Lutheran, with all the old Bible stories and everything. And then in the Bible, there's the Ten Commandments. Moses, a guy in the Bible, he'd gone up to Mount Sinai was it Mount Sinai, I guess, to meditate and think because society was getting out of hand. And up there supposedly saw a burning bush, and the voice of God spoke to him and gave him 10 commandments. And 10 commandments are basically laws to keep a society from going nuts. Don't kill, don't steal, don't, wish your days away wanting what the neighbor guy has. Well, the very first one is, I am your God, you shall have no other gods before me. And that doesn't necessarily mean God is in deity. It means something that's so important to you that's the most important thing, like money. That could be considered that. And I learned that from Sister Mary Wiederholt, who was my ethics teacher in college. I love that lady. She may not have agreed with all my thinkings, but she liked the way I defended my thinkings and said that I was on the right track to being a good person. Well, and I think I'm a good person. I have been an asshole. I have. And I've done things that I'm not proud of, but I don't do those things. Once in my life I did this or that, and I'm not proud of it. And it was probably it was wrong of me to do it. Because if someone's doing something bad, eventually they're going to get it back. Eventually. I'm just waiting for a certain someone to get his back. Not my ex. Someone in the White House. I know he was brought up with narcissistic parents, and to them, he was not brought up with church. He had no pets, no religion, just the almighty dollar, and do anything you can to get it. You learn that from age 0 to 1. You learn that from birth. That's the way you're going to be. And you can't help but be that way. Now, I suppose there's a way that God could strike you or whatever and you change, but highly unlikely. And it's very frustrating, is a good word, because, Spencer and I were watching some video, Funny Cats or something, and it had a commercial. And there was a guy sitting in a chair doing these chair exercises. You can lose so many pounds, you can lose weight, blah, 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 and get in shape. And Spencer pulled me into him and he said, Nana, if you do those exercises, can you lose weight too? And now some people might be offended. I wasn't offended. I know he loves me and he wants me to be in decent enough shape that I can play with him. Because a lot of times I'll get tired real quick. And he had boundless energy. And I'll say, Grandma's tired. I got to sit down. Grandma's fat. Grandma's tired. And he's been told by Mommy not to use the word fat. Because he said something about someone being fat. And Mommy said, we don't say that. That's not nice. So that's why he whispered it to me. He goes, will you lose weight too? And I said, probably, but I don't know if I can do all that. He's my little cheerleader. You can do it, Nana. You can do it. And I should. I really should. And why we are so lazy, I don't know. A lot of people, know what they should do, but they don't do it. And where was this whole thing going? Well, because people have always done it this way, we've always had people that were evil. We've always had people that wanted to take advantage of others. We've also always had pure of heart, innocent-minded, as innocent as you can be with all the crap going on around you. And Spencer lately, he's 4 now, And he's got to the point where he feels what's going on around him. And the last 9 months of our president insanity in the White House and all that, everyone can feel it. It was like me when I was 12 or 13, whatever it was, when the Vietnam War was going on, and how society was, you could feel the tension in the air. You really could. But that's what's going on now. Spencer feels all this strangeness going on around him. And it's very frustrating to be told, that's wrong, we don't do that, yet seeing people do it. I implore all these people in power, please look at your inner child. Would you want to be treated this way that you're doing on others? No. And a lot of those people have enough that they could turn into wonderful human beings and still survive just fine. I implore people that are in power to stop having abuse of power. Put love in there. Put thinking. Put kindness. Narcissists love people that are stupid, people that are dumb or don't know, ignorant, which means they don't know about it. Like if my mom ever caught me reading, she'd talk to me or ask me stupid questions or distract me because she didn't want me learning anything. It's a wonder I was, the top quarter part of my class in grades. It's a wonder. I was never allowed to. So I did all my homework in school while between things, and I could do math in my head. I wouldn't have to sit and work it all out. I learned to be very quick and efficient with my learning. I'm very lucky I could do that. Not everybody's able to do that. Like I'll go to the store and I'll stand in front of the toilet paper aisle. It's one of the best examples. So you've got 12 rolls, 1 mega roll, 2 double rolls, 4 triple rolls. You got all these weird things. So I'm standing there looking at the toilet paper and looking at, it'll tell you how many sheets per roll on the packaging. So many sheets, and then how many rolls. So you add that number up in your head. Well, I have a calculator on my phone. I can use that if I want to, but usually I do it in my head. So I'm sitting there with my head cocked to the side, and I'm looking and figuring out, of all the different packages, which one is the least expensive per sheet. I know that sounds really cheap, but you have to count every penny especially these days. I've never been rich, so I have to be frugal. So I'm sitting there with my head cocked to the side, looking at the toilet paper, and the workers of the store come up to me, "Are you all right?" I said, "Yeah, I'm just adding up things, adding numbers in my head." And they look at me like, that's a concept they've never heard of. Because they've always done it this way. Or, no questions asked. There are people that don't ask any questions at all. And when I was younger, I know people that are older than me, that are at the beginning of the baby boomers. I'm at the very end, and the beginning of Gen X. I don't even know what Gen this and Gen that is. I don't know, and my father taught me how to do a lot of things in my head, how to picture things. I'm a visual learner. I used to draw graphs and charts to express fractions and things. And I picture stuff in my head. That's how I do it. And just because everyone else has always done it a different way doesn't mean it's the only way that's correct. And poor Spencer's becoming so frustrated he's getting in trouble at school because we're all told to do stuff one way, but he sees society doing it another way and ignoring the rules. So look what example they're doing to our children and our grandchildren. The world's going to crumble. Please stop poisoning. If you had money, be a good person. You don't have to give everything away. Just give a smile and give care. You know? Because if you do live a long time, you're ruining your world and you won't have much of a world to live in the next 10 years. And how long have I blithered? Probably too long. 15 minutes and something. I'm going to have to listen to this before I post it. Just make sure it's okay. Today I'm going out to look for stockings. I have to iron my dirndl for tomorrow. I'm going to an Oktoberfest and take you with me. I will. So I'm going to look for... I could go bare-legged and wear my Birkenstock sandals, but it's become chillier. And I have some newer shoes I want to try out. So I think some kind of stocking would be a good thing. So I'm going to look. Probably find nothing. I like the knee-high socks. I always wore those in school. I know. Dork. Do they even make them anymore? Fashion trends are crazy, but they ought to have at least the basic, decent fashions available. Now, I don't like having to buy everything online because if they don't fit or if it's not right, you have to go through the trouble of sending them back. And a lot of people don't. So I think that's the way a lot of these companies make more money, because people don't bother going through the trouble of sending them back. Oh, don't go off on another tangent. This video's long enough. Can't wait until I go to Oktoberfest and take you with me. Du liegst mir im Herzen. Ja. It means you lie in my heart. I love you guys. I'm glad you're there. Like and subscribe. Yeah. If I sit and watch too much of this crapola on TV, I end up crying. So I better just get up and start doing. Upward and onward. What? Surely you complain about people mumbling. Don't mumble. Okay. Upward and onward. How about that?